Welcome back. Today's panel discussion will be about ecosystems, like the theme of the conference. And we're very glad and very pleased that we have three thought leaders on stage that will help us with some guidance and with some learnings. Joost Heideman of Univé, Andries Smit of Aviva, and Josep Celaya of Mapfre Group. But please introduce yourself in a few words. Can I ask you?
Sure. I'm the global head of transformation of the Mapfre Group. Essentially, I'm in charge of the open innovation model of the company. We are running now an acceleration and an adoption program, essentially meant for bringing innovation from the insurtech startup ecosystem inside the company, because we consider partnering with the insurtechs one of the key competitive factors that we will have to face in the future. Additionally, I'm in charge of the corporate venture capital of the firms and the relationship with universities, education institutions, and so on.
Andries?
Hi, everybody. Oh, that's loud. I'm from Aviva. We're a multinational insurance company, 16 markets. Our home base is in the UK. We've got 33 million customers worldwide. And I look after what we call the digital factory. So basically all the engineering, product, user experience and design for all of our websites, apps, API layers, and including our data.
Joost?
Joost, yes, I'm responsible for Univé. Univé is a medium-sized insurance company in the Netherlands. Maybe important to stress that it's a mutual company, so it's a cooperative. And the funny note is that we have as many members as Ping An has agents in China alone. So we're a modest, important and relevant company in the Netherlands, but quite a different scale than we saw yesterday.
And you're also quite involved in ecosystems, basically one of the reasons that we invited you here.
Yes, because for us as mutuals, cooperation is in our DNA, basically. We always want to work together as members, but also with our society, with organizations around us. And for Univé being medium-sized in the Netherlands only, we don't have the deep pockets that some of the bigger firms, like the gentleman left of me, have. So by definition, we need to cooperate with others who cherish, on the one hand, our strong brand that we have and a huge value in that, and our members who are very committed to our brand. And we'd like to leverage their expertise, their skills to basically build something together in terms of innovation, because that's what I've been doing the last couple of years to really bring a traditional mutual into the new age with doing innovation, but I have to do it with other people because we can't do it ourselves.
So ecosystem is pretty essential.
Absolutely.
Andries, can I ask you, ecosystem thinking, is that just another hype, or is it really here to stay? What are the key trends that you see behind this phenomenon?
I don't think it's a hype. And interesting, I agree with what Joost just said. Partnering or working together has been in the DNA of the insurance industry for centuries. The interesting nuance, though, is we've always just partnered on distribution with brokers or banks, or we've partnered for manufacturing, reinsurers, or capital markets, as an example. But what technology is now allowing us to do is to partner inside our own organizations, partner for operations, partner for customer experience, for onboarding, for document management, for financial management. And that is where the nuance now come in. Usually we would just procure services, but now we need to really work together as partners. That's the new skill which we need to work on.
Josep, can you add to that?
Sure. I think I totally agree with you. Ecosystems are a fundamental change in the way the economic structure is going to be organized. Beyond the traditional vision of value chains, vertical sectors, we are moving to a new reality where the relationship with the end customer is going to happen through certain companies, very few companies in the world. And that's definitely transcending the world of technology. It's already happening, for instance, with manufacturers in the automotive industry, and it will happen in other realities. Therefore, I totally agree with you. This is not a hype. It's a total revolution. We are facing times of change in the economy and in all the activities of life due to the technology revolution, and this is one of them.
From a consumer side, there's also the idea that insurers are moving from products to services. And most probably those services require ecosystems more than anything else as well, right? Is that also your experience?
Yeah, maybe one example, Roger. So we are very strong in home insurance and always have been. That's our origination, basically. And much like anyone else here today, yesterday, we see a need to sort of go to the area of providing services. So we want to get into the business of giving you a safe home experience, more so than just doing the insurance piece of it, which means that we want to enter in the space of prevention for burglary, water leakage, having a sense of safety at home, but also connected with other members in the neighborhood. So it's not only your own home, but if you're away from holiday, how can your neighbors, also members of Univé, in some areas that's the case actually, we have a very good market share, we want to connect the community and basically create a bigger sense of safety in which insurance is only a part. And to be able to do that, we need to partner with many, with the neighborhood, with our members, with installation companies, with handyman, with sensoring firms, alarm companies, etc. And that's where we see for us to play a role, sort of directing that ecosystem where we could never control or manage it. But it's a good example, I think, of where we think there's a new space which we only can play in if we partner with the parties I mentioned.
And that's actually one of the platforms that you already created,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. Of course, there's a specific vision behind all the efforts that you're going through now to implement those platforms and ecosystems. Can you share a bit about that vision? What are the big ideas behind it? Andries, can I ask you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my point about the customer experience, I think, also ties in with this services. Customers don't wake up in the morning thinking, oh, I need to buy insurance, or I need to buy home insurance, if we just take this example. They care about their home. They care about the things that are in there. They care about the people that are in there. So the vision for us is to really plug into that customer in his normal day in living. Not to cause a new friction or a new decision, just becoming integrated in their lives, integrated into the ecosystems or platforms where they already are. We had this wonderful experience in China. We have a big partner there, and I had the privilege of meeting them. And they talked about there's 6 utilities a human do every day. They eat, they go to work, they talk to other customers, they buy stuff, and they need to be healthy. And if you think about that, that's the only 6 things which they absolutely have to do. And that sort of really provoked something in me to think, well, how do we just embrace that? How do we just plug into those 6 things that customers do every day, rather than trying to say to them, stop one of your 6 and listen to me? Because, and that is why one of the things we're seeing manifesting in the InsurTech ecosystem is the new InsurTechs are realizing just how expensive it is to procure people, to stop them and say, look, don't do one of those 6 things. Listen to me, I'm going to tell you about my wonderful insurance. It's very, very expensive to buy that share of their mind as they go through their lives.
So thinking ecosystems really starts with taking the right customer's perspective and also becoming really part of their lives. Is that also your view?
I totally agree. I am relatively new to the insurance industry. I've been working for 8 years now. And one of the first impressions I got is that people that work in insurance usually tend to overestimate the relevance of the product for the end customer. The product is not the relevance, the notoriety. So the awareness of the customer during the day about the product. The customers tend to forget that we exist, as they tend to forget whose credit card are they paying with, or so on and so on. And the reality is that the new challenge is to create relevance based on being on the right moments and solving the right problems in that precise moment without being seamless with the rest of the life of the customer. That's a new challenge. In order to do so, the old paradigm of brand awareness, of being relevant by pushing my brand, doing advertising and so on, it's totally out of the new reality. And therefore, in order to build that reality, we have to be integrated both, not only in commercialization and distribution, but in all the moments where the customer is living, all the moments of the truth where we can provide the services. That is being integrating on third-party ecosystems.
Well, many of those moments are actually also being catered by the big tech platforms. And of course that gives a total new dynamics, I think, in the way that you guys are operating. Some thoughts you can share, Andries, about looking at that new reality as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the speakers earlier talked about app fatigue. I do think, consumers face into that we've just overwhelmed with everything, and everybody's consolidating onto the 5 or 6 big platforms. I'll comment just specifically on, we're working with Tencent in Hong Kong as an example, and that is deliberately to do that. We realize, if you just think about the Asian context, the average customer spends 4.5 hours within just the WeChat app. So being within that ecosystem is no longer a choice. You just have to, because that is where consumers are. It's the same old thinking as why we would partner with brokers or with banks, because there is a captive audience and consumers are there.
Tencent is your new broker, sort of.
I wouldn't go as far as that, but it's a partner. And for me, it's bigger than that, because the partner brings much more, as I mentioned, about helping us understand what does customer experience really mean. What are people thinking when they're in that moment, which is a new skill, rather than just assuming, I'm going to interrupt you with whatever you're doing, and I'm going to tell you about my insurance offering. And there's so much more value in that.
Sure.
I think it's a very interesting perspective. Also, when you read about ecosystems, the most obvious ones are always mentioned, like mobility, home, work. But the dimensions that you add to it are quite different. Looking at Tencent as a potential platform where you're actually already working with, thinking about the different moments throughout the day. So what are the platforms that you think, or the ecosystem that you think will be the winning ones or the most important ones for the next decade? Josep, can I ask you to...
Of course, on top of the technology ones, the ones that we are already thinking, and this is quite obvious, we already have platform. We have partnered with Amazon in order to distribute insurance. I mean, Google is there, obviously, and so on and so on. On top of them, certain parts or certain aspects of the reality are going to be structured in ecosystems. One, for instance, is mobility. And in mobility, I think the key question is who is going to run the show? Who is going to be the main player of that ecosystem? And there's an interesting struggle between the manufacturers and the technology platforms there, or even new platform players like Uber and so on. There's an interesting things happening there. It is very likely that manufacturers, either the ones that we already are dominating the market or new ones, are in the center of that ecosystem. There are other ecosystems where still the reality is still configuring. So it's less obvious who is going to be in the center.
I think that you already got like quite an extraordinary ecosystem
what we're planning for
as well, right?
Yeah, and I was thinking about your question about who's going to win, and again, we're medium-sized players. We dream about winning, but we may not be winning. But I think what we've seen with the big tech firms, who have obviously a good play, they all have some issues today. And I think from a consumer's perspective, relevance is also very important. Something that they care about and that's relevant can be small but very effective. And as an example, we are considering a sort of energy cooperative. We are founded by some farmers in the north of the Netherlands. We have about 15,000 of them, and many of them still have asbestos in their stables and barns on their roof, and it needs to be removed by 2025 by law. And it takes a while for people to start, getting traction. And we are insuring those barns and stables, so we have an issue as well. So we are sort of joined in how do we fix this. So we are now planning an initiative, and actually starting in Q1 next year, where we're going to remove all those roofs and replace them by solar panels. Because as a result, so we have an investment plan to basically get that done. But more importantly, these farmers are going to generate energy, and the energy is then going to be distributed to our members who live in the neighborhood, who feel like, isn't it great to get the energy from the farmer I know from my hometown? And of course, we need to work with energy companies to make it happen, installation companies. So we're organizing the whole set of parties involved who all have an interest in something of the cake. And nobody wants the whole cake, and I think that's not an important notion. If there's somebody who wants the whole cake, typically cooperation is more difficult, I think, to get traction. But here it's clear everybody has his own stake at it, and if, for all I know, in a couple of years we've transformed basically 10,000 farmers in their stables, barns, and what have you. So.
The funny thing is that you, in your whole explanation of the concept, you didn't even mention the word insurance.
No, no, that's very indicative of where we're heading. We have members that we're proud of, and they're proud of us, and we want to be relevant for them also in new spaces. And this is clearly a new space, a good new source of income for us potentially, because in the whole energy market there's new margin to be made, and more importantly, which does not have from the regulator a capital perspective on it. So it's very nice margin, if you will.
So you like ecosystem thinking also open up new revenue streams and,
absolutely.
And new business models.
Absolutely.
And that's interesting as well, looking at the future, of course.
Yep.
Now, looking at InsurTech, how important is InsurTech? Looking at all those new ideas and plans and concepts that you have in mind. Can I ask you, Josep?
Sure. I think the new environment requires a totally new set of skills. I'm totally convinced that the most sensible way in order to gain those skills is to partner with the InsurTech ecosystem. So my vision, we should be able to integrate solutions from the InsurTech ecosystem in order to be competitive. And therefore, in the future, I think one of the most relevant competitive factors of the insurance industry for incumbents, for the guys that are already there, is going to be their ability to partner with InsurTechs.
So it's about digital skills and speed, and it's about a new skill being creating and nurturing partnerships.
Definitely, and obviously being able to create win-win models and cooperate with those reality. It's not easy. I mean, everybody that's here that has an InsurTech startup or it's on the other side, on the corporate side, knows that there's a lot of friction on that interaction. But I'm totally convinced that the ones that solve that friction are now able to create win-win partnerships are the ones that are going to stay there.
And what are the success factors of making that cooperation between InsurTechs and incumbents happen?
Yeah.
How do you do that in practice?
Yeah, we are doing it. Yeah, definitely. We have launched an InsurSpace, which is a cooperation platform between InsurTech and the corporation. And the main purpose of that platform is to decrease that friction. So therefore, make for the startup viable to bring the value proposition and integrate it with the corporation. And on the other side, being able to facilitate the guy that is on the business process, the ability to innovate by bringing innovation from outside the company.
And are InsurTechs helping you as well to accelerate your ecosystem thinking, Andries?
Absolutely. I mean, just to the earlier point, I think InsurTechs is absolutely vital. Number one. Number two, it's absolutely about the new skills and capabilities, but it's also about actually innovating at scale. You know, talking from just my organization, when you're faced in with 17 markets, over 30 product lines for manufacturing, operations, and distribution, it is such a complex thing to try and unravel. It's impossible to innovate in every one of those dimensions. So one of the biggest ways in which we try and partner with InsurTechs is to try and figure out, okay, so which one of those boxes are priority issues or customers are signaling to us that there's a real deep need, and then you partner specifically for those. Let me give you an example. One of our sessions with customers came back that they said for car insurance, as an example, they would really like to be credited or rewarded if they're good drivers. And we said, okay. And we launched an app a year or so ago called Aviva Drive. And the idea was you put it on, it measures 200 miles, and then it gives you a score of how you're driving, and then also helping you to ascertain some discounts. But then the customers told us, actually, no, they want more added value services from that. They also want some dash cam features, as an example. So in that case, we looked again across this complex landscape, and we said, are we the best equipped to figure out how to do dash cams and real-time cloud upload data and so forth. And we realized, no, actually, let's partner. And there was quite a few solutions out there, and we worked with them and co-innovated. And actually, we launched that added functionality to the app in June, and it's been an absolute success. Customers love it. We're seeing uptick rates and download rates more and more. We just can't help it. So that was a beautiful example where the best of all worlds, a real problem for the customer, a real problem for the insurer, and the insurtech coming together.
And it's also making cost more variable, and also the speed to market is much faster than ever. What you could do by yourself, probably.
Absolutely.
Well, hearing all these stories of what you can do with insurtechs, and I think that they also, you mentioned scale, which is important. Now, Univé has a different scale.
Yeah, you're looking like me, like you're a different place. I am.
No, yeah. But and I know you guys are very innovative and taking all sorts of initiatives. Yeah. But within different restrictions, can you share a bit about how you, as a mutual, are actually exploring this space and getting the most out of it?
Yeah, and it might be interesting also for the insurtechs in the room that a recent study from AM Best, a rating agency in the US, about the market of mutuals, had as a headline, "Insurtechs, please go find mutual companies for success for the future." It's maybe a bit of a forgotten segment of the market because they want to, work along with you guys with deep pockets. But in the small, medium-sized mutual companies, there's tons of experience in insurance from the past, but little in terms of innovation and technology. So I think, and they're very much open to working together. So I think there's a huge need and demand for small, medium-sized companies, and especially the mutual ones, to work with you guys in insurtechs. So I would certainly invite you to go look for them, because they would be happy to invite you over. And so have we done, and at Univé, and it's and with the ones that are working together, it really, you work well with people who see the world the same way. And that's what we're looking for. We have a certain DNA. We really care about our members, not even customer members, and make their life better. Insurtechs that have a similar purpose, then we see traction getting along really quickly. So that we're looking not only on technology skills, we're also looking if we're alike in terms of purpose and how do you want to change the world. And that really for us is a differentiator.
Sorry, Roger, just to add, so I mean, what makes a good partnership, we talked about the capabilities, we talked about the strategic alignment, and and the cultural alignment. But I think there's another important point here, which is around managing expectations. And being really clear in that partnership up front, just how fast or slow you can go, and whether the money is there or not. I had my own tech startups, and I also had this issue with the word maybe. Mm-hmm. Insurance companies won't give you a yes or a no, it's a maybe, because we don't want to miss out, but at the same time we're not going to commit. And the problem is when you've only got finite capital, then you can't deal with these endless maybes. So I think that in that partnership, make sure, both from our side we need to commit, but at the same time, as an insurtech, I would press upon you to make sure you get a solid answer and not be kept on a line.
I think you touch on a very, very valid point. I've been in meetings with insurtechs where on the other side of the table we met with 15 people from one insurance firm. And so that's, the balance was a bit off. And I think that we can all relate to those kind of settings. Contracts that were as thick as a phone book. Yep. And that didn't allow insurtechs to work for anyone else anymore. So there's a lot to improve there. But I think, Josep, that you also found a way to make sure that there's like a pivot or someone or an organization, entity, that makes sure that the cooperation between the insurtech and the divisions of Mapfre go much smoother. Can you tell a bit more about that?
There's someone told me, a serial entrepreneur, a guy that has been doing entrepreneurship for 30 years, with 25 successful exits, this guy is Spanish, working in Barcelona. And he once told me, when we were discussing about how to set up this new initiative, is the real problem is that you have two sides on the table. One speaks Chinese and the other one English, but they don't even know that they are speaking a different language. So therefore, what you need is to create translators. So you need to smooth the process. You need to translate between one reality to the other, because as you say, I've seen that the circumstances. There are 2 guys coming from the startup, and then you have 20 guys in the corporation. You have the lawyer, the compliance one, you have the guys in claims, you have the so on, so on, so on, so on. And the discussion is impossible. The decision-making process is just totally jammed. You cannot get to anywhere. And one on side of the startup, they are expecting that you get to an answer in 1 week. On the other side, 1 week is like 1 minute for the guys. So we need to create the circumstances in order to make this work. And the first step is to recognize what are those different priorities in both sides of the business and make it visible, evident for everybody.
Now, looking at ecosystems and also looking at different way of thinking about working with insurtechs, what are the potential roles that insurers can play in ecosystems? Like many search for a way to orchestrate, to be in full control. Perhaps it is possible, perhaps it's not, but you obviously must have think about it before. Josep, can I ask you to share what you think?
What are the most visible, the most?
Can insurers actually orchestrate an ecosystem?
Yeah, I think there are very few exceptions, but the answer is, I think the most honest answer is, I don't think so. But that does not mean that's not a tragedy. So let's calm down. That's even a good news for our investors, for our shareholders. So don't worry about it. We can be very profitable and not orchestrate any ecosystem. So let's leave ego apart and try to make rational decisions. In terms of rationality, I think we can be very profitable by being part of being relevant players on third-party ecosystems. And that's what we are aiming to. So, I know that there are certain cases where, of insurance companies that have been able to build an ecosystem around them. I think that's very, very difficult, and we tend to focus only on the ones that have had success, not on the ones that have failed in the process.
Andries, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the key thing to remember is it's going to be clumsy at the start. When you're building a new ecosystem or entering a new ecosystem, there's so much to learn. And what I'm trying to foster is a sense of curiosity and a sense of, okay, let's learn and find our way. Of course, there are obvious things that the insurers can bring. We can bring money. We've got a corporate venture capital arm, so we can bring that. We can bring a hell of a lot of expertise in terms of, our claims experience and our underwriting experience, operational experiences. How do you do the value chain? How do you engage with that? Of course, we bring a balance sheet. Right? We bring that license, the regulatory understanding, which are all extremely complex and some big barriers to enter into these markets. But I can't see just one party of this ecosystem controlling it or dominating it. That sort of goes against the whole point of the ecosystem. The point being that I don't think it's clear yet to how we should play. And it's a learning process, and that's probably why it's been observed as clumsy over the last couple of years, as everybody tries different things. I mean, we've, as a company, Aviva, we've done pretty much anything and everything you can imagine. We had labs and innovation pilots, and we had accelerators, and we invested in other accelerators, and we had a corporate venture capital arm, as I said. We had our own innovation. We tried different things to learn and to try and understand where are our strengths best used, both for our customers and for our partners.
So it's new skills, it's learning. Just to summarize, question to each of you. What would be the key message going through all your experience in developing and nurturing ecosystems to share with the audience? Joost.
Yes, to build on what you just said, very rightfully so. And
one sentence, huh?
Oh, I'm sorry. I think change in leadership is required to make all of this happen at insurance companies. We need to recognize it, do it differently. I'm going to build my sentence, I'm not, sorry. So change of leadership is, I think, transformation in leadership thinking is really extremely important to make any of this happen.
My point is, keep going. This is an industry worth disrupting, and we're all on a journey together.
I would say the key success factor is partnering with InsurTech in order to build relevant propositions for those ecosystems.
Partnering with InsurTech, I think that's what the conference is all about. Seems like a great conclusion. Thank you very much, guys.
Okay, sure.